Welcome to CxXchange Success Hour. We're so excited to have you here. Today's topic is an easy framework to introduce AI into your CS program. And I'm super excited that we have Mikayla LaRosa here. I was so lucky to meet Mikayla when we were at New York CS Week, and she presented. I was also presenting, but I went to her session where she was talking about everything she's doing at Airtable, and I'm like, I'm gonna get you to come to Success Hour, and I'm so excited that
Yes.
we have. So, Mikayla, why don't you introduce yourself a little bit, and for folks who don't know you and love you as I do, they will in just a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, amazing, Jan. Thank you so much, and thank you, everyone, for hanging out today. I'm Mikayla. I lead up AI programs at Airtable on our scaled customer success team. So I've been in seat in this role for roughly 12 months now. Learned so much, and again, as Jan mentioned, have had the opportunity to share some of those learnings, and I'm so excited to be sharing with CX folks and CS folks like yourselves today. And so in the role that I've been in, I'm sort of wearing two hats. I'm oftentimes supporting our internal teams on rolling out AI solutions using Airtable. And if you're not familiar with Airtable, it's a no-code app platform that you can build apps for an organization with, and it actually has AI capabilities in it. So oftentimes it's a little bit meta. I'm using Airtable as part of that. It's pretty awesome. So using Airtable actually build no code AI solutions, and by no code, if you're not familiar, it's just really gives someone the ability to develop an app without writing any code. The other side of the work that I've been doing is customer facing work, where I'll actually run workshops with our top enterprise accounts, get hands on. And that's actually where and I've been able to develop a lot of these frameworks, helping customers, and this framework specifically that we're going to talk about today, helping customers get started, knowing, okay, AI, there's a lot of possibilities here, but being able to decipher what is actually a good opportunity, where can I start to automate some of my work. So that's the framework that you can walk away with today, bring back to your own teams. Stress test the ideas that you have, that you're thinking about. Is this a good fit for AI? So that's the hope today.
Awesome. All right, so let's dig into it, and let's see. Oh, that's right. So depending upon who you ask, either 52% of customer success teams or only 40% of customer success teams are using AI in some way, right? That's a pretty small amount and a lot of opportunity for us to do some stuff here. And then when you take a look even further, when you take a look at who is actually incorporating AI, it's either coming from the company or it's coming from the individual, just like using ChatGPT or something like that, getting innovative. And what it's not coming from, though, is from a team or department level. And so that really means that as CS leaders, especially for any CS leaders out there, this is something where you should really prick up your ears and think about and start to imagine, and that's what we want you to do today, how you might incorporate this across all of your teams and how you can take a real leadership role in this.
Yeah. And Jan, just to add, I think like that last chart is really fascinating okay, it's really easy on an individual level to start using a ChatGPT like tool, or maybe a tops down approach where leadership is saying, hey, we have this tool now. So it's either at the company level or sort of this individual level, but cracking the code of like where this could happen at the department level or team level. So a lot of opportunity here is sort of what I see.
Yeah, yeah. All right. And so then I think this is where you're really going to start to dig in, right? Because
Yep.
it's all about identifying AI ready productivity workflows. And
Yes.
what does that even mean? Tell us.
Yes, and so we're gonna break this down. I know there's a lot of text on the screen here, but this is the whole framework. So let's just sort of walk through it. And what I've done here is shown both positive signals you might want to look for, and then some negative signals, sort of anti-patterns. So if your workflow has these four components, where attribute, data, repetition, manual effort, and strategic impact, those four, and I'll run through each of these, you are probably in pretty good shape for something qualifying for an AI productivity workflow. What is that? At the highest level, at the highest umbrella, AI, artificial intelligence, is actually it's an automation. You are you are using AI to potentially create increase productivity in this sort of this specific framework. You're speeding up work, you're accelerating a process. But that means that you have to have, number one, some underlying data, something that you can coach the AI with. You can sort of nudge it along the way. So starting with this first column here on positive signals. We have an invoice each week. So the data that we might want to process here is the invoice. That's full of meaty, rich details that are unique to that invoice. A customer success example might be customer feedback, or maybe you're training an AI chatbot on help center articles. Maybe it's a support ticket or something along those lines. But this is often predictable content. It doesn't mean it needs to be the same every time. It could be oftentimes at Airtable, we talk about document type workflows. You're able to actually upload documents to Airtable and extract those documents. So invoices being one of those examples. A negative signal in the data category would be the data isn't documented anywhere consistently today. I know data challenge is chronically hard for many businesses. So, but being able to sort of identify, okay, relevant to this workflow, do we have something we can provide the AI and coach the AI with? If the data is scattered, if it's non-predictable, what that means is, okay, maybe we need to get our data house in order a little bit before it's ready for an AI.
And just if I can interject, so also what we're talking about here, when we're talking about productivity workflows, there's lots of other ways to use AI. You can get, various types of insights and look at trends and analysis and things like that. We're really talking about if you're going to use it to save time, save money, save, be more productive, these are the types of things you want to look at. And so, so then repetition, right? That's another one.
Yep, repetition. So this is that second attribute you want to look for. So if you're describing the process that you're working on, that it happens every day, every week, every month. Quarterly business reviews. We're going to dig into an example in just a few moments, but that happens every quarter. Or account reviews, or even a repetitive sales to CS handoff. Even if that's maybe not at a specific cadence, it happens at a repeated motion or moment. A negative signal here would be, sometimes or whenever we need sort of ad hoc requests. So there might be, in this case, a lack of alignment on what the repeated process is. So wouldn't be a strong fit on the repetition front. I'll keep jumping down. Number 3 here, manual effort. This is where you're going to start to be able to calculate that productivity gain that AI is able to have. If you know that the process today is really time consuming for your team, understanding how time consuming that is, and knowing and estimating, okay, if we layer on AI here and we can speed this up by X percentage, this is how much sort of manual effort we're alleviating on the team, and they can shift priorities to something potentially more strategic. So if you're describing a process that's, this takes two teammates, 20 hours monthly to manage, you have a specific time investment, or you can calculate that. Maybe you haven't articulated it just yet. So having clear coverage on a specific process. Some examples here in customer success would be responses to questions that customers might reach out to on, or doing call prep, whatever sort of L2 that may be, versus in the anti pattern here, however long it takes, an undefined time investment, just sort of eating up time there. And then rounding out fourth one, and maybe last but not least, definitely not least, this is critical to make sure that we are driving business outcomes, driving the KPIs that matter to customer success teams, like renewal rates, like adoption, like CSAT. And this is really where we can connect and prioritize an initiative to be strategic for the business, where you're going to get attention from the C-suite, from leadership, to say, hey, wow, they're making some moves, making AI really a strategic part of the business, and vague sort of better quality, or we're speeding up work, it doesn't have the same impact necessarily. So we really want to quantify, and we're going to talk about exact formulas for that you can use.
Absolutely. And that's another thing too, is like, if you take a look at, let's say you come up with a streamlined process, it's using AI that makes it so much faster to put webinars together, so that you can put on a webinar every week, but it doesn't drive any business impact. And you say, but now we do a webinar every week. And they're like, okay, so nice to have, but what does it matter? Right? If it's not driving something in your business. Now, if those webinars drove business in some way, then that would be fantastic. But that's why strategic impact is so important. And I love that you have come up with these four, and an easy way to sort of tick the box, right?
Yep. It's a checklist for sure. And we can, let's apply this to an example, just sort of frame it in a story. So I'm just going to read a quick story, and as I'm going through it, look for try to spot those four components: the data, the repetition, the manual effort, and the strategic impact. And then there'll be a reveal. We'll just sort of put them all on screen so you can see, but see if you can spot them. So each quarter, customer success managers must create comprehensive business reviews for their enterprise accounts, requiring extensive manual data gathering and analysis. Our team has 5 CSMs who each typically manage 4 priority QBRs per quarter. This totals 80 per year, so 80 QBRs across the entire team. Each QBR takes approximately 12 hours per account on average to research and prepare for, instead of maybe focusing on other strategic engagements. So automating this workflow is essential for improving CSM productivity and enabling managers to focus on high-value strategic discussions rather than maybe manual data compilation. So taking in that story, having seen the framework, we're starting to see some signals here. Feel free to reveal.
Well, anything in the chat? Any thoughts
anything
about
in the chat
what
people see it?
What things that would make this ripe for automation and AI? Company research, okay. Each quarter, 5 CSMs, 80 a year. Lots of manual effort, 12 hours. Yeah, I know, right? 12 hours for each one. Any other thoughts? Yeah. All right.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, thinking about your own teams too, these numbers could dial up, dial down. The math is the same. Maybe you have more CSMs, maybe it takes less number of hours, maybe, it's completely, I know it can be very different, but what really is important here again is the sort of the formula versus the metrics. But okay, so first we have the data. So what type of insight is needed to put together a comprehensive QBR? We need lots of customer data, we need feedback, we need analysis, we need to look at past conversations. What is the customer's goals? How does that all connect? It's a very comprehensive analysis that a CSM needs to be able to wrangle. What happened over the last quarter? Where are we going moving forward? So there's a lot in there. The repetition component. So, and I think I saw it in there. Someone dropped it.
Yeah,
Aisha,
Michelle,
thank you for
repetition for creating the QBR.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. So 4 per CSM, 16 annually times 5 CSMs, that's 80 QBRs. So it's quite a bit of lift for the team, and 12 per account. 12 hours per account is that manual effort. And then lastly, we see the strategic objective is increasing CSM productivity, enabling customer engagement. And ultimately, it's not explicitly noted here, but most important, we're driving better customer outcomes from this. That's really the ultimate goal in customer success, and being able to support accounts. It's lifting 12 hours. It's a day and a half of time that you could do. So actually, yes, let's jump to the next slide.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
we've talked about the framework. We've seen an example. How do we start to estimate the way that AI can have an impact? And so this is a framework, or at least sort of a metaphor that I've started to develop and share with customers, and it felt really pertinent here today. So I created these images with AI, so this is my artistic prompting abilities. On our left side, we see a table. There's like tons of different sort of screws and gears and different pieces of maybe a machine. Imagine this being representing the ad hoc or broad usage of AI, where it's supporting everyday tasks. Sometimes you need a spring, a screw. It's useful maybe in 1 or 2 different moments, very, very unique and personalized. And on the other side, we see this blue gear, and it sits within a larger machine. And this represents AI inside of a process, redesigning, reshaping the way that you're doing business. If that gear was moving maybe at, a 5 speed, with AI, it could maybe move at a 10 or a 20. It can speed up a component of the process. So just keeping sort of that metaphor in mind. Now we have an example. So I think of AI chatbots like a ChatGPT as supporting those everyday tasks, being able to have a conversation back and forth, but it's typically very scoped, right? I'm working through one problem at a time, like I might with a colleague or a friend. With Airtable AI, we have this opportunity to transform business systems at scale. So what you're seeing in this GIF might be a little small for folks on screen, but essentially you can, in this example, you're tagging hundreds of pieces of feedback or 30 pieces of feedback in one single field. So you're able to create and create scalable ways of using AI models built on the same technology, just interfacing with it in a different way inside of Airtable. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Jan.
No, I was just gonna say, and that takes us back to this image then.
It takes us back to this image, and it takes us back to what type of impact do these different tools have. So you might see if you were to snap your fingers and everyone on your team had ChatGPT, they're going to maybe do work 10 to 20% faster. They're going to write those emails faster or problem solve a little bit faster, but it's going to be diffused. And I think that's an important word there. Whereas when we reshape and redesign a process, we have to do a little bit of front work at the beginning, front end work, but we're going to see in the back end a 30, maybe 50% improvement because we were very focused on redesigning how we did that work. So this is where numbers start to get fun here, but I'll break it down and hopefully again, let me know in the chat if there's any questions here, but this is just building on
because we wanted to show the impact, right? And that's really critical. when you're building a new process out, you need to be able to claim it and to show like, hey, this is what we've done. This is what's been
Yep.
changed. And really show not just the hours saved, but the money saved, right?
Yep.
And so that's why we thought it was really important to share this.
Yeah, and what's also great knowing that you could get 30 to 50% improvement, you can even estimate that impact, maybe to build the case to invest in AI. So we have those 80 QBRs. We know they take, just starting at the top here, they take 12 hours per QBR. That's 960 hours annually. Your team is pouring into this this one process. If we sort of multiply that by an hourly rate, this $38 is from Glassdoor. It's sort of the median hourly rate for knowledge workers. You could adjust this however you sort of see fit. We get
And
this 36. Yeah.
can I just
Yeah.
interject for a second? When
Yeah,
you're
of
putting
course.
these numbers together, it's really important to have a separate cell for how whatever you have as an hourly rate. What I've found in working with CS leaders is sometimes they know the average hourly rate and sometimes they don't, and the CFO or VP of finance or whoever doesn't want to give that information up. So I'm like, okay, fine. I'm just going to go out to Glassdoor like Mikayla did, and I'm just going to put a number in there. That way, then when I share it with the VP finance or whoever, and I say, okay, so this is where I got this number from. Like, oh, it's not from our company. No, you can put that number in and you can see what it actually is and see what it actually is for our company. But you know, it's great to have that in a separate cell. So I just wanted to call that out when you're putting that on an Excel sheet. Anyway, go
Yeah, it
ahead.
gives you that. I mean, it gives you that flexibility to
Mhm.
adjust it dynamically. And yeah, it's just a ballpark directional. But seeing this one process and quantifying, oh wait, this is costing us 36,000, almost $37,000 a year annually. Okay, now I know in my back pocket, okay, if we reshape this process, we save just 30% of the time. That's about $11,000 saved, and 50% would be roughly 18. So this starts to get really interesting when you then actually, implement and start to calculate how much time was saved as a result of this. So yeah, that's hopefully helpful. Hopefully some gears are turning in terms of running these calculations, but really, really glad to. I'm seeing some
Yeah.
comments in the chat, but yeah, happy to
Yeah.
discuss more.
And we do have some examples in the back end of both the other types of ways in which Mikayla has streamlined processes and how she calculates what the savings are in time and money, and also then over like in support, as well. And so, and then there's some other examples of things here. But, it's just, and then also there's lots of resources here, whether it's Airtable or other kinds of community and courses or other types of resources and blogs and different things like that. There's also a YouTube channel reference. So there's a lot of stuff. So Kathy, would you mind putting the links again so that folks have that, both the breakout session notes as well as the slides. This is what we were going to talk about today in our breakout sessions. Just, talking about sort of workflows. Are you using them? Or, do you have any workflows that meet the four criteria? Or if there's other ways in which you might apply this to just all kinds of things in your life and incorporate these kinds of principles when you're evaluating which things you want to do. But what kinds of, so you can get these breakout questions in the breakout notes as well as in the slides. But were there any thoughts or questions before we head out to the breakout rooms? Yeah, Pam, I know. I take a minute to just, that's how I felt when I saw some of, and this is just a portion of what she was talking about in her session. So, but any other thoughts here? You can come off mute or.
I do want to emphasize one thing that I think is important just as leaders in our own organization. It can be definitely really delicate talking about and starting to estimate labor savings and starting to quantify this. I think that as leaders, being able to shift that work and make that be more strategic, unblocking, I helped our support team procure an AI chatbot in the first half of my time, first 6 months in the role, and we were able to, get some pretty serious savings, and it's actually been able to unblock the team to do more strategic works with customers. So I do think it's a delicate balance, and we want to create with AI the feeling of a psychological safety and be really transparent as we're moving forward and making decisions about the business. This is a new space, and I do think there is a hesitation from folks. And that article in the resources from Ethan Mullick, AI and organizations talked about this quite extensively in terms of there's a lot of folks probably in the business using AI that aren't telling you about it because they're worried about, it might not be they might be taking their job, or it might be sort of changing. It might be risky. They're not allowed to do it. Customer success is a really interesting field because you're often using data, some of the most sensitive data in your business about the customer. So you need to be, there's just a lot of different sort of things to consider there. So.
And Pam has a question, and we also have a question from Lena in the chat. So let's take a couple of quick minutes, and then we'll go to breakouts.
Yep.
Pam, did you have a comment or question?
Yeah. So, does Airtable, you're using Airtable as your CS tool, as your CS, your CS platform?
Not at this moment. Okay. No, we're not using Airtable specifically.
So the AI that you're doing, is it like a macro, or is it actually just, okay, we're building out our QBR, here's, use this chat prompt, or, how are you doing it?
Yeah, and that's a great question. So I've used Airtable to build some of the workflows within our scale customer success. This QBR is just one example. For example, I've used Airtable to build a sort of scaled newsletter, or actually a personalized newsletter. There's an example in the deck. We didn't get a chance to talk about that one. But using Airtable to develop messaging and email copy to specific audiences. I just on a high level, it's an exceptionally flexible platform that's good at sort of focusing in on specific functions within a business. And so more than happy to talk about other use cases. But we're using it in very specific ways, like messaging, documents, or generating messaging, or ideating like that.
So is it like a macro that you can just say, hey, everybody use this? Like, it's just one.
I'm not familiar with the term macro, but I think like I'll often work directly with our digital success manager to develop a solution with them. And so it's maybe one or two folks using that. You could absolutely use it like across the team as well. But we've been getting really granular on specific sort of content generation workflows or collateral like workflows.
Sure.
The AI chatbot, for example, we bought a separate tool for that. We procured Forethought. So if anyone's looking for an AI chatbot, I've had experience there, and that was on the support side of house.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Lena, you were asking about if it's highly regulated or risk-averse industries like security. Just briefly on that, because we did cover this actually in our industry series as well. And really, it depends upon how sensitive. And there are tools out there that can pass all of those kinds of regulations. And then there are some situations where it's just not possible, and it really depends upon the level of security and the type of tools you're looking at, and some of those things. And if it's going out over the internet, in some cases that's just not possible. Sometimes it has to be within your own system, things like that. So it just depends. Was there another question? But we should probably go to breakout rooms. Was there anything else here that okay. Want to be sure to mention that next week, actually, what we're going to be talking about is ChatGPT on steroids in simple ways to actually increase revenue. It's not about savings, it's about creating a process to increase revenue. So I just thought I'd mention that before we go to breakout rooms. Hey. Looked like there was a lot of conversation going on in the breakout notes. Breakout rooms. I always get a little jealous of that. I noticed, I don't know what kinds of things you were discussing in your group. I noticed one of the comments in the chat that I was going to just maybe start our quick closing conversation about, but someone posted, is there ever a concern that once you've demonstrated the savings using AI, that management will use that as an excuse for layoffs? And I think what I've seen and what I know of is two things. One is that when people leave companies, they're not rehiring for those roles, and so then there's more attrition, in that way. You will, and so certainly in terms of in the career crafting community, we talk about why then it's so important to be like that perfect match, because that's the only folks that are coming into companies, is if they're really going to add more to what companies are doing. But also, and this comes up in the CS Business Leadership Accelerator, where we're talking about, but if anybody's heard of Rule of 40, Rule of 40 is now going to be Rule of 50, 60, 70. They're not even sure yet. And that's because what they are expecting is that productivity across the board, and this isn't just for COGS, which is where CS usually lands, but across the board, all OpEx, marketing, sales, engineering, they're expecting that all of those roles are going to have efficiencies. And that's why you did see some engineering layoffs, right? Like at Google and different places. So there have been some layoffs, but I think ultimately what it's going to be is smaller companies and fewer people doing more things. So sort of doing more with less is sort of here to stay. I don't know if that came up when your breakout session, in your breakout groups, what kinds of things did come up for folks when you're in your groups?
One of the things that came up in our breakout group is it seems like there's some organizations that have a culture that's very AI forward. And then there's other organizations that are like, no, you're not allowed to use AI for whatever reason. And um, unfortunately, I mean, I don't think those organizations are going to do very well over the next year or so.
Yeah, and I think it will be interesting to see what happens with, highly regulated or where there's security issues, right? Because they have challenges in some cases, but then they're going to be behind if they aren't using AI in some ways, right?
Yeah, I mean, Mikayla, I don't know how much you're allowed to say, but when I was at Airtable, there were obviously some concerns from financial services and those types of organizations, but I would be shocked if they still were maintaining that stance. I feel like a lot of them would have opened up to AI, especially with all the security measures built into Airtable. But Mikayla, if you're allowed to comment on any of that, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, I mean, we're using Airtable to build a lot of internal tools. I can say that, I think, and across multiple functions. I mean, there isn't any function that I think we're not building it in essentially at this point, and we're sort of problem solving there. It's a horizontal tool. It can apply to customer success. It can apply to our finance legal team. It can apply to all sorts of different processes. But again, I think where we need to be mindful is the data that we put in, the rules around that data, what specific customers have specific requirements for their data. So if you're holding that data within a certain tool, what comes in, what are you analyzing, what comes out, and it's a definite,
garbage in, garbage out.
Yeah, but also being mindful, right? You don't want to process data that wasn't
private.
yeah, exactly. So being being
Yeah.
considerate there.
And certainly if you're looking for a role, you definitely want to take a look at, and ask them, what is your data like? And if you're in a company where your data is basically locked up, it's pretty critical right now that you take a look at how to unlock that data, in terms of just even your own internal analysis, right? Even if it's not for how you're using with customers and stuff. What other things came up? Any other topics? That was a pregnant pause. What did we not talk about here yet? Was there something else that folks were thinking about?
We talked in our group a lot about potential downsides of using AI. Well, the classic, is it going to take over the universe and replace humans? But also things like, will employers take advantage of the use of AI just to cut headcount and do more with less,
Yeah.
less?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right,
kind
which
of
is,
thing.
yeah, I think we were talking about that we were talking about that as you were still coming in. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so definitely company sizes are getting smaller, how that happens, whether it's through layoffs or attrition. But definitely, and there was also that link about Rule of 40. I don't know with what that was specifically about, but just specifically what is Rule of 40? Basically, what it's looking at is productivity from the investor perspective. They're looking at how long you're keeping your customers in, and how many people it takes to acquire new customers and to keep them in your company, and looking at productivity in that way. And investors across the board are expecting higher productivity from AI. And so that's why too, if you come back next week and you're looking at how to even more productively use ChatGPT, we've got an example of someone who did a 2.5-hour project, but it literally is like a major revenue driver, what he did with that project, right? And just the kinds of things you can do to empower your team and to make them more productive. I think we all need to be looking at this, whether we're individual contributors or leaders, to really think about how we can be more productive, because that's who's going to be most successful in our companies. And then the more the company has people who are thinking about AI in innovative ways, that's who they're going to be keeping in companies. That's how the companies will be the most successful. Like if you're unlocking your data, if you're using it in imaginative ways. So that's why I felt like it was so important to come up with scrappy ways to look at this framework that Mikayla had, and to look at innovative ways to use ChatGPT. You really can't afford to ignore this.
I mean, this is not going to change ever. Maybe the emphasis on productivity and doing more with less and that kind of thing. I can't help but wonder if it's taking its toll on everybody to be constantly thinking about that, not just the general aspects of your job, but also you're being watched or counted or just all the time.
I don't think it's about being watched and counted. I think it's about how you engage with your tools to be able to be smarter and more productive, so that you're not spending time on administrative things and manual tasks, but so that you can be that much bring that much more to the table when you are there as a human, how it empowers you as a human. And so it's really just a very powerful tool that if you start to really work with these tools, to start to think about how you can be that much more empowered and bring that much more to the table. I think that's probably the better way to think about
I
it.
think,
Yeah.
oh, sorry, go ahead, Mikayla.
Just adding, I mean, I think AI is going to usher in a personalization revolution here. I think it's going to change our expectations for what customer success looks like. What does it mean to give like sort of scaled customer success? We're going to be able to do things for more customers that weren't ever possible. the types of tools we might see in a year from now are going to be wildly different because you can do so much more to sort of support. So it is absolutely shifting our relationship with those tools and our relationship with our customers. I saw someone else was going to jump in.
Yeah.
I heard someone.
Oh, I was going to say, I think it's sort of like, if the Industrial Revolution, when it came, it changed the world, right? But we are still here. We've evolved and readjusted, and so obviously this change is at a I mean, that takes place over 100 whatever years, and this is much faster. There is that, but I do think we're human beings, that we're resilient, and I do, but I think one thing, Kathy, and we did discuss, we need to codify some of the regulations, and there needs to be oversight, which I don't feel there is right now. And we could get in, that's a whole other debate, but I think some AI founders have expressed the same sort of, concerns as well. But yeah, I think we're going to learn to evolve and live with it, and hopefully improve, and like the Industrial Revolution did. Then so let's see. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely think it's a great thing. Yeah,
It'll change things. Yeah. Lynn, was there something you were sharing?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember like the exact quote, but something like AI is the paintbrush, not the painter, right? So it's not going to necessarily be the thing that's doing the change. And we talked about it a little bit in our group as well, which is there's always going to be people who need to understand how to wield that power. I'll steal Kishla's comment of it's like how to train your dragon, right? Think about how AI is this big thing, and we need to teach people like what is the right way to prompt it. Like how do you get better at fine tuning those things? Like I think we know for most industries, and probably even the ones that are more regulated, they'll get on board later as well. Like we all need to be working on how do we tailor those prompts? How do we harness that power? Because I think that's what will help us, stay ahead, get ahead using that. Back to the Industrial Revolution comment too, right? Like we used machines in the right way, and it helped exponentially change things. But we're all still here. Things will be different, but ultimately, it's where do we go from here, and how do we take advantage of what we can?
Yeah. Yeah, and Pam, like you said in the chat, studying philosophy makes us better in our spare time. Like kind of like it's the way that you can think bigger and also more specifically and learn how to use the tools and apply them. It really, I think it's going to be very interesting, and really encourage you all to come back next week, and it's going to blow your mind to see, what David has done with ChatGPT, things that he could not have done himself without using AI. And I think that that's what's going to happen is the kinds of data we have, the kinds of like, there are just papers out there that, like on economics, he literally got a paper on economics he knows nothing about, got it to translate. And I don't want to tell too much of a story, but like, there's just things that like I could not be able to do. But if I know how to ask AI, all of a sudden now I'm empowered with it. And it's what are those kinds of questions that you're asking? It really is about the questions you ask, right? That really reveals what you're able to do in using a tool like AI. It's really exciting, really exciting. So anyway, Mikayla, I am just so thrilled that you came to share your framework with folks and also to show like what the impact is, because that's so important when we're in our companies to be able to say, and this is what the impact was. But no, it was fantastic to see it. I really appreciate it. Hope to see
Thanks
everybody.
so much. Thanks everyone.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
No, it was great. Oh yeah, and Mikayla, if you can stay just 1 second, but follow up on something. But no, really, thank you so much. I hope you come back next week. It's going to be a great session. We're going to have a few weeks break then. And then in January, we're going to switch to a different schedule where it's going to be like 1 or 2 success hours a month, because we have all these other programs and things that we're doing at CxXchange. So there's going to be a lot going on, but we're just going to be doing it a little bit differently. It's going to be a lot of fun. So looking forward to seeing you next week, and in 2025. Crazy.
Wow.
All right.
All right.
Awesome.
Bye, guys. Have a good evening.
See you all.
Thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of Success Hour, formerly known as CS Office Hours. We regularly put out new content, so to be the first to know, like this episode, tap that notification bell, hit that subscribe button, and we look forward to seeing you soon.